a mural on Andrews Avenue. Can you tell us about your proposal?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Draga Srnjak. I teach at Youngstown State University. I just want to mention that this project is a collaborative project between Youngstown State and Lit Youngstown. And Karen Schubert should be here. I think I saw her briefly. We collaborate here and we talked briefly yesterday. So I would like Karen to, if Karen, you're okay to give us a brief overall introduction. I will talk about process in a depth and more detailed technical aspects, but Karen can provide conceptual framework.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. I'm the director of Lit Youngstown, which is a literary arts nonprofit. The Andrews Avenue Mural Project is a collaboration between the YSU Art Department and Lit Youngstown, as Dragana noted. And we've received funding from the Raymond J. Ween Foundation, and we're working with Cityscape and the Andrews Avenue Business Group. The mural itself will be designed by the art students in Dragana's class, which is a course on public art. And one element of the mural will be a memory ribbon, a line that travels through the mural with memories of people who live or who have lived here. We solicited memories from the community, and I just posted on our website the memories we've received so far, and they are delightful. And I invite you to add your memories as well. And if I may share the screen, may I show some of those quickly?
Nikki, could you show the screen?
Can you see this? So
yes.
Here they are. They run from breakdancing to Youngstown downtown neighborhoods, some wonderful musical memories. Strauss's comes up again and again, the wonderful windows as an employer, ice sculptures. And there are memories from people who just grew up here and from people who grew up here a long time ago. And we believe that memory is an element in our conception of the present and the future. So we think of the mural as a meaningful part of the revitalization of the historically critical corridor, Andrews Avenue. The mural itself will be on the west side of Andrews Avenue on a retaining wall. Let me see if I can make this bigger.
Where is this the retaining wall that is at the southern end of Andrews Avenue?
Yes, that's correct.
And this is to be mounted on that, is it, or painted on it?
Well, Dragana will tell you about the process.
Okay, sure. So this wall is really a long wall for those that are familiar with the area. I think it runs actually over 800 feet in total. So I just want to clarify that we would like to have phase 1 and phase 2 to the project because of timeline. It's just impossible to finish the whole length of a mural in one semester. So this is first time that I will be teaching mural class with the students, and our objective is to not only involve students in all steps of designing, meeting with community, building this image and painting it on the wall, but also to really be empowered for future projects and know all the process so they can come back and contribute on their own when they graduate from YSU. So we have this wall that's really long, and we would like to start from the middle part. That's I can show some pictures actually. Karen, I still have your. Okay, let me share. This will be way easier if I give you visuals. Okay, so this is the wall coming from, I'm sorry, like my orientation sense, so, but it is coming into the town of Youngstown. So we are coming from Hubbard area, driving into Youngstown. This is the wall here. And if you can see a little section here that's sort of pushed away from the sidewalk, there is about 25, 30 feet, the wall kind of slopes in, and there is nice little green area. So we will start from that section, which is the middle part of the wall. It's highest section of the wall. I think it's about 24, 25 feet high, and stretch to about 85 feet on both sides. So total, we would like to do about 150, maybe more if we can. It's really hard to know exact footage, but we'll try to finish at least 150 feet of this wall in a fall. I'm gonna show you just a hypothetical rendering of what we are hoping to get. So can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, this is hypothetical, and it's obviously this is long wall, and students will be involved. So a big part of this process is that students will be designing this visually. We do have, as Karen mentioned, conceptual framework that this is based on the memories of Youngstown. And this mural here, the sketch doesn't show the text simply because we are really zoomed out. It's hard to see that, but the text ribbon will travel through this section, and we will select specific memories to embed in a certain places as a shapes, as a text. So those who are coming by, there is sidewalk that's not really utilized that much. So we are hoping that this will refresh area, and people from Youngstown, from the campus and downtown can get connected a little bit more. And eventually it would be wonderful to have some benches there, which would fit perfectly for lunch or break. But
Now, are you showing the drawing right now?
No.
I am.
Can you try again? We're still seeing the image of the street.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, let me, okay, because they're overlapped and I'm still figuring out. Okay, I'm glad you interrupted me because, okay, I think this should be up. I'm so sorry. I was looking at it, actually pointing to, so yeah, this is hypothetical rendering I just mentioned. So we do want this, we know for sure, even though it's hypothetical, we do know we want color, we want a lot of visual movement. We want something that really visually speaks to whoever drives by or walks by, so it has this impact. And we want it to look fresh and modern. But if you look at image closely, we will base the image on layering. So we definitely will take some of the memories, and we hope to meet soon with more community members, Andrew's Avenue Business Group, who will contribute. We will get some of the input, you know, what images and memories people have of this particular area. So there'll be some images embedded that suggest history of Youngstown, but there'll be also bold and saturated color that pops up and really points to this dynamic future that we would like Youngstown to have. And so there'll be a lot of, we really want this to be visually present and vibrant wall. And that's basically kind of just the basics of it. But I would be happy to answer specific questions. I'm sure there are some questions if you have on the process.
You're proposing to paint this on the surface of the concrete?
The surface is concrete, yes, and there are steps to prepare it. So we already have quote we met. It has to be power washed. I mean, the wall right now is in not in a terrible shape by being broken or that needs really major repair, but it is very dirty. So it needs to be power washed. There are some vines and trees growing over. That will actually be first step. We have to cut those. So especially now in the spring and the summer, it's really growing wildly over the top sections of the wall. And then it has to be primed. We'll definitely prime with the students. We'll have that as a first step in the process, and everything will be painted with acrylics, outdoor weather resistant paint, and then varnish. So there are kind of a lot of steps to actually get to the point of painting, but also preserving it at the end.
And is Chuck still here? This is the city own this wall? This is our wall?
We believe so. I think Karen has a lot number, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Public right away north of Wood Street. South of that, it's a defunct LLC that owns it. They haven't paid their taxes since the 90s. So north of Wood Street, city right away. South of that is the defunct LLC.
Okay. There are a lot of details that in terms of the painting technique and what you're proposing to do. How is this going to be maintained over time?
So we definitely considered some potential hazards of weather and also graffiti that might happen in the future. I didn't know honestly from beginning when we started planning this, but there is actually Home Depot sells, and we would like to use that. It's clear coating that resists any additional paint applied to it. So any graffiti, industrial based spray paint or graffiti paint that most of those who use it will get, it can be removed easily. It doesn't stick, it's not absorbed in. So it comes in 5 gallons. We already would use that to protect, but also before protecting it from graffiti, we will have to varnish it. And that's simple acrylic outdoor varnish that's applied in a one coat over. That should be, it's tested. That's what's used in murals commonly to protect it from weather and cracking and ice. And
Do committee members have questions for the applicant?
To the chair, this is Marguerite. In regards to the memory ribbon, how are you going to select what people want to put on the wall?
Chalk-Us art students will be involved with the selection of those memories, and we asked memory submitters for a bit of demographic data just to make sure we have a nice representation of submissions by ethnicity, by age, by the time that they lived here, just to show the complexity of our collective memory.
Thank you.
And I will just add quickly to this, because the wall length is divided into 2 phases. Hopefully we would like to do coming back in a year or 2 and continue. We will continue collecting these memories. So hopefully by having community see the process and stop by, we plan to have few events, even with restrictions due to pandemic. We would like to invite public to drive by, and we'll have sessions where we can simply wave at people while we are at the site, but also we'll have some virtual meetings where community can submit comments, concerns, add more suggestions. So basically this becomes, we are building website as well, part of the grant we dedicated to website building to promote and really keep community connected. So that will hopefully, when they see first phase and get excited, if it all goes as planned, we will have that second stage when more people would like to be involved. So like Karen said, I think diversity is really one of the biggest objectives we have here.
Do other members of the committee have any questions for the applicant? This is a very conceptual piece at this time, and I'm going to suggest that if the committee approves it conceptually with the idea that the understanding that the applicant would come back to the committee with more details about the material, about the design, about the phasing. It's a very ambitious project on a very visible piece of property, and I think it would be beneficial to engage in a further discussion as your idea evolves, and it might not be also be an opportunity for the students to present some of their ideas, get some experience in that as well, rather than simply saying go ahead. It seems a little, at this point, a little more conceptual than actual, and I would suggest perhaps that the committee, if they have no further questions, would approve it in concept with the idea that as the details emerge, we will work with you to bring it back before the design review committee for final approval.
Is it our job to police the design of it, the final design? I mean, I like the location and it's city property, but is it our job to approve that? It's the artist's ultimate decision, I guess. How does that work?
I would only suggest that as a piece of, I believe, public property, one has to be mindful of the product and both the product and the technique. What exactly is going to be applied to this wall and how is it going to last, et cetera. And again, it's an opportunity for perhaps for the artists, which are students, to present their ideas. I understand the concern about creative freedom, but it is also a piece of public property.
If I may just comment to that, we did submit timeline because of semester timeline that's already strictly set, and we are kind of at that tight timeline. That's my only concern, that we start mid-August and students will plan and sketch, and by September we are hoping to be on the site. Again, we have 2 months approximately with switching. We do have to have restricted smaller groups of students working on a site at once. So by November, December, when weather gets rainy and cold, we really will have to be done. So it'll be very intense 2 months. And I completely agree. I think we already in that timeline that I submitted, there are meetings that are planned to share the design and get feedback on actual design. So it's not, at the same time, students, we do want to have that freedom, as Nick mentioned, like just to have the students have not sense of like ownership completely, but sense of creative freedom to build image that they are really excited about. So again, we can't really include everything, like even these memories and images. It will be impossible to have all of those kind of be present, but we'll try to definitely in that inclusion of different opinions, voices, and will be crucial. So I'm just saying that that timeline was submitted. So maybe that document, I can resend it again. And I'm a little anxious with the time. We have a month to clean the trees, to pre-wash and prime and then paint. So I'm just mentioning it.
What's the committee's decision how to proceed, whether final approval or conceptual approval? And I think I'm sorry I didn't have a copy of the timeline, and we haven't distributed to the committee, but that would also give the committee members an understanding of the urgency of this. Do any of the members wish to make a motion on this matter?
Yeah, good morning, John DeFrance. I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept and allow the group to go forward.
It's been moved. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the project. And to clarify, John, is that's a final approval, or do you wish to have them come back at some point in time?
It's a approval of concept, and we'd like to see any further detail, prior to, putting the paint forward for us.
Mr. Sersnick, is that possible to do within your schedule, to schedule a second meeting early in the term when you're back? Okay. That will work for you. Okay. So been moved and seconded to have conceptual approval with the understanding that the applicant will return very timely for a timely review so that they can proceed, and also that we will distribute the timeline.
Mr. Morrison, I'm sorry, may we just pause for one moment? Jagannath, are you sure? Are you sure that timing will work for you?
Well, I'm looking here, like if these meetings are always scheduled at the beginning of the month, I'm not familiar. I'm sorry, what would be, like I said, we plan to start to be on the site early September, like even end of August, but we could have something by the end of August if we can have meeting at that time to share what students got, what is the final design. But I don't think that
for the August meeting, the semester hasn't yet begun. But for the September meeting,
no, September. I think we can't go with the meeting into the September. That would push our start time really then mid-September. But we can have design done, but I would say August 25th, 20th, final design. I'm pretty sure if I get students to start right away, first day of the class. Our class is planned to go virtual online, so I'm gonna be with them from first day to design and work on it really full speed. But that's all I can promise. By the end of August, we would be okay sharing that with everyone.
Yeah, we have a meeting in early August and early September.
That'd be September 1.
So what is the date of late August? Is that already set?
September 1st.
Okay, I think that's, I feel pretty confident that we'll have something that will by September 1st, if we can work on preparing the wall and having the pre-washing and priming, that has to be done. So it's almost like we have to work on that stage to be ready to paint in September. Those are the stages we can't really wait until September to start.
That's not a problem.
Okay, I mean, that would work perfectly. We'll just share our final design, and by then we'll have more technical details as well. I didn't mention scaffolding. One section that's 20 feet high will have to have something installed in that area, but we'll have more of those details than September 1st.
Okay, we can certainly work with you between now and then to address any of those technical questions on the staff side.
Thank you.
That should
Are
work.
there any other questions or comments by members of the committee? If not, all those in favor of the motion for conceptual approval signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Um, The next item is the proposal for the Hopewell Theater. We have Kevin Willis and Jessica Schultz to present.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you? Good. How are you?
Can you describe your proposal, please?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the Hopewell Theater, hopefully you guys are familiar with this building. It's a wonderful structure that just sits west of the railroad tracks and the WRTA bus storage area on Mahoning Avenue. Right now, there is no accessible means into the building, which is very limiting to theater goers at the moment. What we did was we are proposing a small accessible entry vestibule on the west side of the building. It's a very efficient layout. It's about 23.5 feet by 12.5 feet. It will provide accessible stair access, which will have a width of 48 inches, so it can be part of the means of egress, as well as a wheelchair lift. It's a very compact and simple plan. We wanted to keep the footprint small for both visual impact and for budgetary concerns. What we are proposing for the exterior elevations, the materials will be very similar to what's existing there now. Instead of the stone base that exists on the existing structure, we're proposing to use a split face block that will be painted to match the existing base to blend it in as much as possible. Above the split face base, we're proposing to use a brick to match the existing. And then on the gable end, a hardy board cement plank, color to be determined, I guess, depending on the look and the colors available. The windows, we're proposing to use a white aluminum storefront system to get these windows to be customized, and a double hung to match the existing would be very, it would be out of the budget of the owner. So the white aluminum storefront windows will be made to match the existing height and width of the existing windows to blend in.
Are those real mullions or embedded within a thermal pane on the windows? Are the two lights, or is it one piece of one piece with a internal mullion?
Sorry, I could not hear you.
I'm sorry, I was asking on the details of the window. Is it a single pane of glass with a internal mullion, or is it two lights?
It'll be two lights.
Thank you.
Are these renderings showing that the rest of the building will be repainted white as well? Because right now I know it's kind of chipping at this point.
At this time, no. The rest of the building will remain as is. There are future plans, but with budget constraints for such a small theater, they wanted to address the accessibility issue first, and then probably move forward as more money and donations start to come in.
So as you select the brick, are you selecting it to match the brick color, the unpainted brick color? to the best of your ability?
Yeah, painted brick color, correct. In hopes that in the future, a more comprehensive plan and yeah, a more palette will become available for the rest of the building. And then this could be a comprehensive painting of everything.
So are there other elements of your presentation, or are you open for the committee members' questions?
Questions at this time would be fine.
Do the committee members have any questions on the proposed improvements? If there are no questions on the proposed improvements, is there you're asking for final approval, is that correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a motion then to approve this addition as presented?
This is Jay Crafton. I'll make a motion to accept this presentation as submitted.
Thank you, Jay. Is there a second?
Second it.
Who made the second, please?
Nick Cretion.
Okay, Nick. Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the addition to the Hopewell Theater. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The third item before us is from Gardner Sign. Jay Primus presenting a change in the iconic Home Savings Bank tower following the new ownership configuration. Is Jay here? Or
Hello, my name is Jeff Primus with Gardner Signs.
oh, Jeff,
and
I'm
up
sorry. Yes.
with Joseph of Home Savings. And what we are presenting to the board is new illuminated LED channel letters replacement for the existing 4 signs on the top of the tower. The existing signs will be removed and the new signs will be installed in place. It's pretty straightforward. We have the signs engineered, which we have submitted the documentation to you. And we would take any questions from the board.
Are you prepared to do a share screen, or do you want me to? Do you have your presentation with you?
We're going to need you to
Okay.
do that for us, if you don't mind.
Okay. All right, now I'm trying to find this is always a challenge.
Yeah, I received the proposal and reviewed it. My question is this the extent of the project? Is there any pedestrian scale signage that is not included in this? Would that?
No, this is the extent of the signage of what you're seeing.
Okay.
Can you see this now? Am I sharing the screen?
No.
So my only question is, we are substantially changing the proportions of the sign from the letters to the logo and letters. Will there be any need to repair where the old frame of where home was on some of the elevations or any of the masonry work?
Can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. This is the aerial view, which shows the location of the signs. These are the replacement signs, and as we understand it. Jeff, do you want to talk to any of these drawings?
You might be muted.
These historic drawings, yeah. Back one of the, all right. So this is this drawing is what the committee, or these elevation shots is what is being proposed. Premier on the long frontages and P on the back on the short. Is that correct? Can the applicant explain what we're looking at?
Yes, what you're looking at there is you have on the south elevation, you have the logo Premier, which will also face the north elevation, the main entrance of the building side. And then what you're looking at, the P logo will be on the one you're currently looking at is on the west elevation, and we will have a duplicate on the east elevation as well.
So there are 4 signs in question.
Correct.
Do the committee members have any questions or thoughts on this?
What is the construction of the signage? Is it lit within itself? You know, what type of sign is it?
The construction of the sign is aluminum channel letters, again with a illuminated logo channel letter, and it's aluminum construction. Inside are LEDs with remote power supplies mounted to the back side of the sign.
Okay, and back to Nick's question, is there money in this project for repair of existing masonry, having removed the home savings signage?
Again, there will be no masonry repairs to the building. We are utilizing the existing steel structure up there that is actually, you know, overkill for the size of our signs. We do have to add some vertical steel structures, but it's very minimal.
I think you're missing the question. Is the company prepared to repair the building where the existing signage is removed?
Oh yes, we will be cutting away. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. We will be cutting away those sections flush to the building of the structural steel. Does that answer your question?
Will you'll be removing those elements that currently hold the home saving sign, and it will be exposed with the new signage?
That's correct.
And are you removing the metal and the grommets or whatever holds it into the wall from the wall section, repairing the masonry behind it?
The masonry will be repaired where required.
So that we'll have the wall itself will be tight, will be weather tight as a result.
That is correct.
And the masonry repair will be to the best of your ability to match the existing conditions? No,
Yes, sir.
stained or colored so that it doesn't look pockmarked?
No, it will be blended in to match the building.
Okay. Does that answer the member's question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the members? If there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve the signage proposal as presented?
Motion to approve.
Who is that?
John DeFrance.
Okay. John DeFrance makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Cretion.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposal as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
The fourth item on the agenda is a presentation of the information of the committee of the housing strategy that the city of Youngstown has been developing with Youngstown Neighborhood Development Corporation. This has been a long time in coming, and we're moving it through the review process with the Planning Commission and ultimately with Council as a foundational document as part of what we're also fits in with several of the other efforts, including the consolidated block grant plan. But Ian Beniston and Jack Doherty are here to present this work that has been reviewed at a staff level very extensively, and will serve as a basis for implementing improvements to the housing stock of the city going forward. Ian, do you want to make a presentation, please?
Good morning. Yes, Nikki, did you have something to say too before I begin?
Thank you. Yes. Councilman Oliver is on the line, but is having technical issues muting and unmuting. So I have a question and then a comment on behalf of Councilman Oliver. With regard to the theater, he just wanted to know if there were issues resolved with the adjacent property owner. Have those issues been cleared up? If someone's still online for the theater. If not, we can follow up. The comment is Councilman Oliver wants on record that he supports all of the projects and is happy to see the mural moving forward. It started as a conversation back with Nick at EAG, Councilman Oliver, and Wes at YSU Scape some years ago, the Andrews Avenue Business Association as well, and he's glad to see all of these projects moving forward. So just for the record, he's in support of all of these projects.
Very good. Ian.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As Hunter said, my name is Ian Beniston, and I work for the Youngstown Neighborhood Development Corporation. Thank you for having myself and Jack Doherty on with you all this morning. We're going to give a very brief presentation on what we've been working on with the City of Youngstown, as well as Youngstown State University Center for Urban and Regional Studies since late fall of 2019. The first thing I want to do is thank all of you that have responded. Some of you have sent feedback on the strategy as well as completed the survey over the past 6 months. So thank you all for doing that. The purpose of what we're talking about and what we're doing today is to create a housing strategy to improve overall housing quality for all residents in the city of Youngstown. So that's the purpose and the motivation of everything that I'm talking about this morning. The first thing that I wanted to do is just briefly review the process of what we've done and the timeline. Our work started, like I said, this past fall, doing data collection. So one of the first things that we did was completed a citywide vacancy and occupancy survey. That was completed in November of 2019. And through that process, we surveyed every residential structure in the city of Youngstown and determined if it was occupied or vacant, and if there were clearly visible exterior distress conditions to the property. For example, if we could see from the sidewalk that the roof was failing or the gutters were not on the property or the windows were broken, we documented all sorts of those items for every residential property in the city. From there, we began a survey of residents, which there were 2 steps to the survey, one this fall and then one over the winter once we had a strategy together. And I'm happy to say, even as we went through the ongoing pandemic here, we were able to obtain a total of 1,700 responses. So we did get a good feedback from city residents, a good cross section of people demographically and in terms of their housing tenure type. In addition to that, in working with the city, we hired a market analyst, Bowen National Research. They conducted, from what I know, the first citywide housing market analysis and needs assessment that's been done in the city of Youngstown in a long time. So that process looked at the condition of housing in the city, the demand for rental property, the demand for properties to be sold to homeowners, the current rental occupancy of existing apartment buildings, not just in the city, but in the suburban townships and communities adjacent to the city of Youngstown. So we were looking at some of the housing conditions at a regional scale, as we all know that plays into the housing market and some of the dynamics in the city of Youngstown. As we put together all of that data, in addition to lots of census data and demographic analysis done by John Bullich at YSU, we began to move forward with putting together a strategy. And from here, I just want to walk through some of the key data findings and then move into the strategy. And I'll try to do this quickly, so bear with me. But some of the key data points, and again, some of this information is not going to be necessarily new to any of you on this call, but I do want to review some of it. So the first point that I'll state, and again, most of us know this, but we found that, over the past 30 years, the cities, of course, experience a population loss. The region has as well. So we're a city that's lost population and a region that's lost population. Our housing, of course, is very old. City. Most of the housing in the city of Youngstown is built prior to 1978. What I want to stress there too, in comparison to the U.S., the median age of housing in our country is 37 years old. So much of our housing stock in the city and the region is much older than that. We also found that there's a lack of quality, modern, lead-safe units in the city of Youngstown, as well as in many of the adjacent communities in Mahoning County. The average home value in the city of Youngstown is $44,500. So that's less than half of the average in Mahoning County. We also found that access to bank financing is a particular challenge for residents in Youngstown, as well as Camel. And with all of these things, we did conduct a racial analysis too. So I would highlight on that point, we found that mortgage rejection rates were much higher for Black residents, regardless of their income strata. So, and we found lots of parallels like that as we went through all of the data analysis. Like I said, another key point that we found is that in Youngstown, we've experienced a growing number of non-local owners. We found that 19% of all housing in the city in poor condition are owned by non-local owners. So that's very significant. And that's compared to just 6.4% of Mahoning County property owners that are non-local. As far as vacant properties, I think we found some encouraging news. So, when I did the first vacant property survey in 2008, we found about 5,000 vacant properties in the city. In 2016, we still had about 3,500. In the survey we just completed in November 2019, we found 1,841 vacant structures. So, we've experienced a significant decrease. There's still, 1,841 too many vacant properties, but we have made some progress there. So definitely encouraging. As far as a housing type, we found that there's been a transition to rental property since 2000. So the county has lost more than 7,000 owner-occupied units since the year 2000. And gained to nearly 2,800 units. So what's happened is we've seen a lot of people move, their properties transition to rental. We've also had thousands of demolitions in that time frame. This next point that I want to make is very important, and I hope something that we'll all listen to closely, and that is that more than half of the renter occupied households in the city of Youngstown are cost burdened. So what that means is more than half of the renters in our city are expending more than 30% of their household income on their housing. So that's very significant. Whereas, it's much, much lower when we look at state and national averages on percentage of people that are cost burdened in their housing. Another finding through our data and market analysis is that there is pent-up demand for low-income renter households, as well as really rental housing for every market type. That's due largely to the condition of many of the existing rental properties in the city. Another finding related to that, when we did the citywide survey, we found that approximately 5,000 rental properties in the city have some sort of deficiency. 2,000 have severe deficiencies. From there, some of the findings from the resident survey are as follows. Residents' top priorities from the survey, and by fairly large margins, were number one, to eliminate vacant properties, to assist owner occupants. So what that means is to help low-income homeowners that have some sort of distressed condition, and to rehabilitate existing housing and build new housing. Those were the top three things in terms of themes from the resident survey, overall priorities. In terms of some of the strategies that residents repeatedly identified, many of them were related to ensuring rental properties are registered and targeting code enforcement to nuisance properties or the most egregious offenders. So not targeting low-income homeowners, but perhaps targeting some of those most distressed properties that are owned by our non-local owners. We used all of that information and much more information to begin to put together a strategy, which I just want to walk through here very quickly, and then we can take any questions or any feedback you may have. But our strategy in brief is number one, to eliminate abandoned properties. And kind of under that heading, we have a number of action steps. Of course, some of those are intuitive, like demolishing vacant properties. Many of the others are related to maintaining them and securing them in that interim period from whenever they become vacant to when they're demolished or when they're renovated. The next, and for me, I would say perhaps one of the most important sections in this strategy is about effectively regulating rental properties. So the first action step under that is to develop a financially sustainable, performance-based rental licensing and inspection program. So that would require making some changes to the current approach of the rental registration and inspection based on what we've seen nationally as best practice and most effective for communities of our type. Within that section, we also recommend that other service providers make rental registration a requirement. One example of that would be that we would ask Youngstown Municipal Court for a property owner to have their property registered as a rental property with the city of Youngstown before they would be able to file an eviction, for example. Another action step related to effectively regulating rental properties is to develop a tenant counseling program so that tenants understand their rights as tenants, but also are working on their own financial stability and can improve their housing situation. Another action step is to develop more lead-safe rentals. Again, we can relate back lead poisoning to many of the issues in our city here and throughout our country, whether that be educational attainment, crime. We have too much housing that is not lead safe still, so that's a very important one. A final one, and this is something that we heard in talking with some landlords, is to develop a risk mitigation fund that encourages landlords to rent to what they might consider higher risk tenants. And that's something that we've seen put in place in many other communities in recent times. The third section of the strategy is about addressing nuisance properties. Lots of this is related to code enforcement and legal strategies that can be used to address nuisance properties. I would just highlight the first action step, which is perhaps the most important one, which talks about targeting code enforcement to the most egregious nuisance properties and using all abilities at our disposal to do that, whether that be assessing fines to collections or ultimately to the tax duplicate, so that we can make some progress towards compliance. The fourth section of the plan is about properly zoning and regulating community residences. This is something that I would underscore as of particular importance for the Planning Commission. As you are hearing requests for things like spot zoning or substitution zoning, those are things that we think should be largely eliminated. And we also recommend in this strategy that we revise and consistently enforce policies to ensure community residences are safe places for people to live. And what I mean by a community residence is a adult care facility. Some of you may know that as a group home or a sober living home. So that section is about effectively addressing those facilities and ensuring that they're quality housing as well. The next section, section 5, covers assisting owner occupants. And what we mean by that, again, I think many of you know that in Youngstown, there are thousands of homeowners that are living in distressed housing. One thing that we found in the needs assessment and market analysis is more than half of the homeowners in the city of Youngstown are low-income people. And many of those individuals have some sort of distressed condition, so they may not be able to fix that condition on their own. So that requires things like repair programs, like loan programs, also working with people to improve, again, their financial stability and credit so that they can address those conditions and not continue to have issues with their housing. Section 6 is about developing and incentivizing home buyers. So in this section, we have a number of action steps to include housing counseling, providing down payment assistance, developing an IDA account program that would incentivize people to enroll in housing counseling, stick with it, and develop savings to improve their housing, whether that be better rental housing or potentially buying a home in the future. Then finally, a final action step in this section is about developing a significant supply of quality housing. One thing we've heard time and again from not only residents, but realtors, property owners, others, is that we need more. Even some Paul, I think I've heard Councilman Oliver say this before, but we need more quality move-in ready properties in the city, both for rent and for home ownership. And my experience now, having renovated about 150 vacant homes, I've found time and again, one of the primary reasons people don't buy in the city is there's not something for them to buy. And what I mean by that is a home that's move-in ready. It has modern mechanical systems, modern kitchen and bathrooms, things that they are attracted to. So that's something that's very important. Our last section gets to all of that as well. So the section 7 of the strategy is about encouraging housing development. And I just want to run through these action steps very quickly too. The first one is a recommendation to extend the community reinvestment area to cover the entire city of Youngstown. We've seen some of our peer communities and some in Northeast Ohio, including the city of Akron, do this recently and has had some success. The community reinvestment area would provide a property tax abatement on new construction and major renovation throughout the city if it was extended citywide. Next action step is to work with our housing authority to work with larger developers that are capable of building rental housing to assist by assigning project-based housing vouchers, which makes many of those developments, affordable developments, much more financially feasible. Another action step is to develop a housing trust fund. The key there is to identify a funding source for it. We've seen that happen recently in the city of Pittsburgh, and there's definitely some movement underway in other communities in our region to do that. And that trust fund, if the city developed it along with partners, would be able to use the funds to encourage new housing development as well as to preserve existing housing. Another action step here is to engage our healthcare providers, our health insurers, the managed care organizations, anyone in the healthcare space to invest in housing in our city. We all know that housing is one of the key social determinants of health. If you don't live in quality housing, that's going to predispose you to health conditions. Nationally, we see healthcare institutions and insurance providers investing heavily in housing. Even I would just highlight, for example, the past couple of years in Toledo, we saw ProMedica invest 45 million in housing in the city of Toledo. So these are not insignificant investments. Something that we need to do better on here in Youngstown, the Mahoning Valley. Next action step is related to putting together a program to build the capacity of more local small scale developers. We do not have enough housing developers in Youngstown or our region, and particularly within the city of Youngstown, we do not have a significant number that are based in the city or mirror the demographics of the city. So that is something that we need to work on. The next action step is about developing a pipeline of housing development projects. This also gets at having sites and buildings readily available. So I won't go through it on this call, but our team, Nikki, Hunter, John, all of us have worked to identify sites where we can assemble vacant land as well as buildings that have reuse potential for housing. So that's particularly important that we're able to get public control of those properties, which is what our next action step talks about, assembling land in the city and county land banks. And then finally, we talk about, again, this gets back to section 6, but developing more market rate, market ready for sale and rental housing in the city. I just kind of gave you the brief action steps. We do have more detail. I encourage you to check out the full strategy as well as the full market analysis. We have that up on our website, and we'll have the strategy up there today as well. Hunter, Nikki, anything I missed or that you wanted to add? Otherwise, happy to hear any questions or feedback.
So I'm going to take time to dive into more of the deeper strategy, but since your first vacancy survey years ago, that there have been about a decrease of 3,100 properties. Has that mostly been demolition or rehab? What does that proportion look like?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, the majority would be demolition, but there's also been hundreds of rehabs over that time too. So the majority leans towards demolition, but there have been a significant number of renovations over that time period as well.
This is a masterful piece of work. Nikki, do you have any comments on this?
No, I don't. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate your team and how committed you were to this project. And as he said, we started back on this in the fall, meeting monthly, and moved up to bi-weekly just to make sure that the information was relevant and was in line with our consolidated plan strategy as well. So the timing was perfect for all of it. So thank you, Ian. I appreciate the presentation.
And to the members of the committee, the jurisdiction of design review is fairly limited, but there are significant opportunities for housing within the design review jurisdiction. And hopefully we will be seeing more opportunities for reviewing high quality new construction and renovation in the design review district. Councilman Oliver, do you have any comments or thoughts? Thank you. Again, this is.
If I could add one thing too, I just want to talk about the next steps too. So where we go from here is, I think we'll come back to the Planning Commission again for adoption as well as City Council. Once we have finalized this plan, we intend to put together an implementation team. So that will be some key people that have been on our team, as well as others outside of the team, to make sure that we start moving as many of these action steps forward as possible. And I just want to reiterate too that we have got substantive feedback from residents, but also from stakeholders. Through this process, we've talked to bankers, landlords, developers, realtors, neighborhood groups, foundations. So we've done a lot of work in trying to get as much feedback as possible, but still welcome it. If any of you, if you don't have comments now, please feel free to share, call me, or shoot me an email with further ideas you have or questions. And thank you all for listening.
This is Marguerite, to the chair. I just want to say, Ian, this was an excellent, excellent job that you all did. And it really speaks to what a lot of the residents in Youngstown are concerned about, because you have a lot of older people that in their homes that can't afford to fix up their homes. So in talking about, the survey and everything that you discovered with the housing in Youngstown, really speaks about how people are trying to maintain their properties. And a lot of them have to move out of their properties for the simple fact that they can't continue to maintain. So they're looking for rental properties. And a lot of them can't afford some of the properties. So I know I myself talked about in the survey, and assistance for these seniors, as well as other people that can no longer sustain their housing and they need rental property. So thank you so much for bringing all of this out. It matters.
Thank you.
Mr. Swires, unmute yourself. You're muted. Bill, do you have a comment? John, do you have a comment? You need to unmute yourself. There we go.
I just why
You'll have to get closer to your computer, John. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay, we'll try. I just want to commend YNDC and the leadership of Ian Beniston, because this has been a long process. I understand that, been involved with it, and a real breath of fresh air and a shot in the arm for our city. Now we just have to move forward with this plan, and I think we'll see some great results in the city.
Any other, Bill, do you have comments? Well, if there are no other comments, we've heard some very strong testimony from members about the importance of this work and about the depth of it. Is there a motion to approve this for consideration by the Planning Commission and the Council? Would any of the members want to commend this to the housing strategy report to the Planning Commission and Council?
So moved. John DeFrance.
John DeFrance. And who seconds that?
Grecian.
Okay. It's moved and seconded to commend this, to approve this and commend its adoption by the Planning Commission and Council. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Ian, thank you for the presentation today. Thank you for the thoroughness of it. It's a important baseline. As John said, this is a long time in coming, and it represents a very deep collaboration. My hope for the Design Review Committee is we'll have, as a result of this, multiple projects to review for quality rehab and development, but also that you'll get the support of Design Review when it comes to some of the challenging issues. We talked about proliferation of group homes and things like that. Some uses that have been problematic and encouraging of additional affordable housing in the city. So it's all part of building our capacity to move forward as a community. And again, appreciate the work that you and Jack and others have put into this. If there are no other questions or comments, I believe I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second,
I'll second Jay Crafton.
Jay, it's moved and seconded. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.